My son gave me vodka for my birthday. I handed it to my lawyer, and my son panicked. I knew something was wrong the moment he smiled. Not the polite kind of smile a son gives his father on his birthday. Not the tired, distracted smile of a busy man juggling work and life. This one was different, tight, measured, watching me a little too closely. And when I handed that bottle of vodka to my lawyer later that afternoon, my son's face lost all its color. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Victor. I turned 63 last November. I've spent most of my life building two things: a small construction company from the ground up, and a relationship with my son, Anton. The company was easier. Anton was born during a snowstorm in 1993. I remember driving through ice-covered streets, my knuckles white on the steering wheel, terrified I wouldn't make it to the hospital in time. When the nurse finally placed him in my arms, he was quiet, wide-eyed, observing everything. Even then, he seemed to be studying the world instead of crying at it. After his mother passed away 12 years ago, it was just the two of us. We learned how to grieve together without talking about grief. He'd sit at the kitchen table late at night, pretending to study. I'd pretend to check paperwork from the office. Sometimes we didn't say a word for hours, but the silence felt shared. Safe. He became my pride. Graduated with honors. Came back to work with me instead of chasing bigger cities and brighter lights. "This is ours, Dad," he said once, standing in the unfinished skeleton of an apartment building we were developing. Why would I build someone else's dream? I trusted him completely. Maybe that was my first mistake. The birthday dinner was his idea. "You never celebrate properly," he told me over the phone a week before. "This year we're doing it right." He reserved a private room at a restaurant overlooking the river. Nothing extravagant, but tasteful. Dim lighting, crisp white tablecloths. The kind of place where the staff speak softly and refill your glass before you realize it's empty. When I walked in, he was already there. Standing, waiting. He hugged me tighter than usual. 63, he said, stepping back and studying my face. "How does it feel?" "Expensive," I joked. "Everything hurts." He laughed. But again, that smile lingered just a second too long. Dinner was warm, comfortable. He asked about my health, about the latest contracts, about whether I'd thought more about retirement. That last one caught my attention. "Retirement," I said. "You trying to get rid of me already?" He leaned back in his chair. "No, I just think you deserve to slow down. You've carried everything for decades." It sounded caring, thoughtful, but Anton had never pushed that topic before. For years, I'd told him that when the time was right, we'd restructure the company. Gradual transition, shared control, no rush. He always agreed, patient, respectful. That night, he seemed eager. When dessert arrived, he reached under the table and pulled out a gift bag. Dark blue, heavy. "Open it," he said. Inside was a bottle of premium vodka. Not the kind you grab from a supermarket shelf. This one came in thick glass with silver engraving. A collector's edition. "You remembered," I said quietly. Vodka had been a tradition between me and my late wife. We'd share a small glass on birthdays, anniversaries, not to drink heavily, just to mark time. After she passed, I kept the ritual alone. One small glass each year. A toast to memory. "I remember everything," Anton said. Something about the way he said it made my chest tighten. We didn't open it at the restaurant. He insisted I save it. "For a special moment," he said. On the drive home, I kept glancing at the bottle on the passenger seat. It was thoughtful, personal, too personal. And that's when the other conversation came back to me. 3 weeks earlier, my accountant, a cautious, meticulous man named Sergey, had requested a private meeting. He had worked with me for over 20 years. If loyalty had a face, it looked like Sergey's tired eyes and ink-stained fingers. "There's nothing illegal," he had said immediately, almost defensively. "But there are adjustments. Documents prepared for future restructuring." "By whom?" I'd asked. He hesitated. Anton asked for projections, ownership transfer scenarios, full majority control. I remember feeling pride first. Ambition. Initiative. Then something colder. Did he say why? Not exactly. I told myself it was natural. He was thinking ahead, planning responsibly. Still, I scheduled a quiet consultation with my lawyer, Elena Morozova. I'd known Elena since university. She was the kind of person who read contracts the way surgeons read scans, searching for hidden fractures. "Bring me everything," she said. "Not because I don't trust your son. Because I trust paperwork even less." So the morning after my birthday dinner, instead of placing the vodka in my cabinet, I drove to Elena's office. I told myself it was a joke. A symbolic gesture. "Look what my son gave me," I said, setting the bottle on her desk. She smiled faintly. "Planning to celebrate?" "Not exactly. I don't know what instinct guided me. Maybe it was Sergei's hesitation. Maybe it was Anton's unusual interest in retirement. Maybe it was that tight smile. I want you to look over the restructuring drafts again," I said. "Everything. And I want to know if there's anything I'm missing." Elena studied my face longer than the bottle. "You're worried." "I'm being careful." She nodded. "Good. Careful men live longer." I left the vodka there intentionally. A strange impulse. As if I didn't want it in my house until I understood something I couldn't yet name. That afternoon, Anton came by my office unexpectedly. "You didn't answer my text," he said, stepping inside without knocking. "I was busy." He looked around. Then his eyes landed on the empty corner of the shelf where I usually placed gifts. "Where's the bottle?" he asked casually. "At Elena's office," I replied. The change was instant. His shoulders stiffened. His jaw tightened. And for the first time in his life, my son looked at me not as a father, but as an obstacle. "Why would you take it there?" he asked. I held his gaze. Why wouldn't I? Silence stretched between us, heavy and unfamiliar. He opened his mouth, then closed it. A flicker of something crossed his face, not anger. Not exactly fear. Panic. And that was the moment I realized. The gift had never been about my birthday. It had been about timing. And whatever was inside that bottle, whether glass and liquid or something far more subtle, was connected to documents I hadn't yet seen. Anton took a slow breath. "Dad," he said carefully, "there's something we need to talk about." And for the first time in 63 years, I wasn't sure I recognized my own son. My son gave me vodka for my birthday, I handed it to my lawyer, and my son panicked. "Dad," Anton said carefully, "there's something we need to talk about." The office felt smaller than it ever had. Same wooden desk. Same framed photo of him at 12 holding a fishing rod twice his size. Same faint smell of sawdust drifting in from the warehouse. But the air between us was different. "What is it?" I asked quietly. He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous habit he'd had since childhood. When he was 5 and lying about breaking a neighbor's window, he did that same motion before confessing. "This isn't how I wanted this to happen," he said. My chest tightened. "How did you want it to happen?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he pulled a folder from his briefcase and placed it on my desk. "The same dark blue as the gift bag from last night. I was going to show you next week," he said. After everything was finalized. I didn't open it. "Finalized," I repeated. "For your retirement." There it was again. That word. "I'm not retiring," I said evenly. He exhaled slowly, as if he'd expected resistance. "You said yourself you're tired. You complain about your back. About the stress. I'm trying to protect you. By preparing documents behind my back." His jaw tightened. I wasn't hiding it. I was organizing it. "Majority control," I said. "Full transfer." His eyes flickered. "Just a fraction. But enough. So you know," he said. "I know you asked for projections." Silence again. But this time it wasn't heavy with mystery. It was heavy with truth hovering just out of reach. The phone on my desk vibrated. A message from Elena. "Call me when you can. It's important." I didn't pick it up. Anton noticed. "Did she say something?" he asked too quickly. I leaned back in my chair. Studied him the way I used to when he'd come home late as a teenager, trying to see past the excuses into the real story. "Why did you panic when I said the vodka was at her office?" His face drained again. "I didn't panic. You did." He looked away first. "It wasn't about the bottle," he said finally. "Then what was it about?" He swallowed. "The timing." The same word I had thought just moments earlier. "Explain." He hesitated. Then sat down across from me, no longer standing like a confident partner, but like a son being called into the principal's office. "You're signing the East River contract in 2 weeks," he said. "It's the biggest deal we've ever had. If something went wrong." "Something like what?" If you decided to pull back, delay, reconsider. And why would I do that? Because you don't trust change. The words weren't cruel, but they weren't gentle either. I felt something shift inside me. This company survived because I question everything, I said quietly. And it will grow because I don't, he shot back. We stared at each other. For the first time, I saw it clearly. Not greed, not hatred, impatience, ambition without waiting. You wanted control before that contract, I said slowly. Yes, and the vodka. He closed his eyes briefly. It was symbolic, he said. Symbolic of what? Of transition. I let the silence stretch this time. He continued, voice steadier now. I was going to propose a toast next week. Publicly. In front of the senior managers. You announce retirement. I step in officially. Smooth. Clean. No uncertainty. And if I said no? His answer came too fast. You wouldn't. That hurt more than I expected. You were that sure. You always put the company first. There it was. Not love. Not concern for my back or my stress. A calculation. You thought I'd sacrifice my position to protect stability, I said. I thought you'd trust me. I did. The words hung between us, fragile. His expression softened slightly. Dad, I'm not trying to take something from you. I'm trying to move us forward. Without asking me. Because you hesitate. I stood up slowly. Walked to the window overlooking the construction yard. Workers moving below. Steel beams rising. Noise. Motion. Life. When your mother died, I said quietly, still facing the glass, I almost sold everything. He didn't speak. I couldn't breathe in this office without seeing her. I stayed because you said it was ours. Because you weren't ready to let it go. I turned around. And now you're not ready to wait. He looked younger suddenly. Less like a businessman. More like the quiet boy born during a snowstorm. I've been waiting my whole life, he said. That stopped me. For what? For you to see me as more than your assistant. The words weren't angry. They were tired. I opened the folder. Draft agreements. Transfer of 60% shares. Executive authority clauses. Contingency triggers tied to health events, and voluntary stepping back. Nothing illegal. Nothing forged. Just prepared. Prepared without me. My phone vibrated again. This time I answered. Elena. Her voice was calm. Too calm. Victor, I reviewed the restructuring documents you sent last week. I glanced at Anton. He was watching my face. And, I asked, there's a clause embedded in the contingency section. If you voluntarily reduce active management involvement, even temporarily, executive authority transfers automatically. That's standard, I said slowly. It is. But paired with the timing of the East River contract, it means once that deal is signed under new authority, reversing control becomes nearly impossible without destabilizing the company. My throat tightened. So if I stepped back publicly next week? Yes, she said gently. Control would effectively be permanent. Anton couldn't hear her words. But he could read my expression. I'll call you back, I said quietly, ending the call. The room felt colder. You were going to make it permanent, I said. I was going to make it stable, he corrected. At my expense. At the company's protection. And mine, I asked. He hesitated. That hesitation said everything. You think I'm fragile, I said. I think you're human. And you're not. He didn't answer. I walked back to my desk. Picked up the folder. Closed it carefully. You could have asked, I said. You would have said no. You don't know that. I do. We stood there, father and son, separated not by betrayal exactly, but by a decision made in silence. You left the bottle at the lawyer's office, he said quietly. That means you don't trust me. I left it there, I replied, because something felt rushed. He looked down. I needed it to be. Why? And that was when he finally said the words that made my blood run cold. Because I've already committed us to something bigger than East River. The room seemed to tilt. What do you mean? I asked. He met my eyes. I signed a preliminary agreement. In the company's name. The sound of construction outside faded into a distant hum. You what? It's not finalized, he said quickly. But backing out now would cost us credibility. Investors are involved. Investors. Without my knowledge. You used my authority, I said slowly. I used our future. The difference between those two sentences felt like a crack forming in the foundation of everything I had built. I stared at my son, the boy I had trusted with my grief, my company, my legacy. And for the first time, I didn't know whether he was protecting what I built, or quietly replacing me in it. And the worst part, I wasn't sure which of us was right.